What is the 1% rule in real estate, and how can understanding this rule save you hours and hours of time? The 1% rule is one of the most talked about rules in rental real estate investing. It's meant to be a quick napkin math indicator to help you determine if the property will produce positive cash flow. Now, by no means, if it passes the 1% rule, does that automatically mean it's a good opportunity, but it's a way to filter out the losers pretty quickly. Okay, let's dive into it. The 1% rule simply states that if you're buying a property, you want the monthly rent to be 1% of the purchase price. So if you're buying a property for $200,000, you want the monthly rent to be around $2,000, or again, 1% of the purchase price. And this is just intended to be napkin math. It's supposed to be a thing where, okay, someone sends you a deal or you're looking for rentals and you see that a property looks like it could be a good rental. Do the quick math. Is the monthly rent somewhere around 1% of the purchase price? If it's too far above that, it's probably not going to cash flow and it's not a good rental for you. So let's look at an example. Let's say you have a duplex and you find it and it's $150,000 to purchase the duplex. One side rents for $750, the other side rents for $750 per month. So the total monthly income is $1,500. So $1,500 divided by $150,000 purchase price is 1%. So this property passes the 1% rule. But this is why it's really important to dig deeper. Just because it passes the 1% rule doesn't mean that it's going to work as a rental. So I'm going to give you an example now of two ways to purchase this property. If you were to pay cash or if you were to get a mortgage. And let's see if it ends up being a good deal. So let's start out with, okay, I like the rental, I'm going to buy it in cash. So first we look at the monthly expenses. You have property taxes, insurance, a maintenance reserve. Now you can set this wherever you'd like. I like setting it around 10%. Property management, this varies wildly depending on where you're buying. I've seen it anywhere from 6% all the way up to 25% of your gross monthly income. So it's important to know this number. If you plan to self-manage, then you can just get rid of this line item. But if you do plan to hire a manager, normally I see between 8 and 10% as the amount of the property management fee. Again, this is 8 to 10% of the gross monthly income. Then a vacancy reserve, you can set this wherever you'd like. I haven't had a rental go more than a month or so vacant, so I'm comfortable setting it at 5%. Utilities. In this particular example, we will set this as landlord paid. I prefer to have tenants pay their own utilities. I think it's important from an efficiency standpoint, but in this example, let's say you're paying the utilities. So your total monthly expenses are $925 per month. So let's look at the cash flow. Your gross rental income is $1,500. Your expenses are $925 per month. So your net monthly cash flow is $575. So you've got $575 times 12 months in the year. So your yearly cash flow is $6,900. So I like to take it a step further. I want to know what my return on equity is. What is the return I'm earning on the cash? So $6,900 per year divided by the $150,000 you have in the deal. So that's an 4.6% cash on cash return. So if you're just strictly comparing this cash on cash return to, let's say, a high yield savings account or a CD, you want to compare what are you getting with those vehicles compared to your 4.6% cash on cash return buying this rental. Now, something that's really important and wonderful about real estate is that there's multiple dimensions to your returns. The cash on cash return is just one dimension. You're also going to get appreciation from the property over time. You're also going to get depreciation, which will allow you to pay way less in tax on this cash on cash return. I will get into that more in another video, but always bear in mind that when you're looking at a piece of real estate to decide whether or not it provides enough cash flow for you, keep in mind that there's multiple dimensions to your returns on real estate. So let's look at an alternative example. Let's say you decide to purchase this property using a loan, a conventional mortgage. And let's say you decide to put 20% down. So you decide to put $30,000 down on the $150,000 duplex, so your loan is $120,000. So for this example, let's say your interest rate is 6%. You're paying principal and interest, and there's a 30-year amortization schedule. So let's get more into the monthly expenses. The monthly expenses are the same as the previous example. Whether you pay cash or you get a mortgage, it's going to be the same monthly expenses. And when I say expenses, expenses do not include the mortgage. Whenever you're looking at a property and whenever you're talking to, let's say, a lender or someone in the industry, they're going to delineate between expenses and mortgage. Expenses are what you have to operate, operational expenses, the cost to operate the property on an ongoing basis. The mortgage is your debt service payment. Very different when you talk to people in the industry. So let's look at the cash flow. $1,500 per month in gross income, minus your monthly expenses, minus your $719 mortgage, which is the cost per month to service the $120,000 loan, and your net cash flow is $144 per month. So while this does meet the 1% rule, the property does not cash flow. And I get this question all the time. Okay, I might buy a property that doesn't cash flow or produces negative income, but it will appreciate over time. I don't like buying a property that's going to lose money off the bat because you have no idea what could come. Just last summer, I had to replace 2 air conditioning units, 2 HVACs in 2 of my rentals, which really hit the yearly cash flow in a negative way. So if I was already losing money on those rentals, and then on top of that, I had to replace an air conditioning unit, then I would really have lost on the property in the given year. So always keep in mind, I like to see a positive cash flow. Even if it meets the 1% rule, I want to see a positive cash flow on day 1 of my acquisition. So what if, we're looking at the 1% rule, it meets the 1% rule, and then let's say it produced the positive cash flow. You always need to keep in mind, what are other risk factors associated with the investment, with this real estate, that may impact your ability to cash flow? What if you have a higher tenant turnover? What if you have to turn over the unit every year? What if a new resident moves in every year and you have to paint every year? Maybe replace the carpet. This is really important to build into your model. And then, or let's say that the day you buy it, you have $15,000 of immediate repairs that need to go into it. You need to build that into your cash flow as well, into your cash flow model. And then poor appreciation. This is why I don't like to buy a property based on appreciation. Appreciation is not in your control. There's a potential that the property could have poor appreciation, or the market could turn, or if the higher crime persists in the area. This can all happen when you're looking at a piece of property. So there's so many factors that go into choosing a rental property. The 1% rule is just the first little step to determining whether or not it's the right investment for you. It's more important than ever to be financially educated. Subscribe if you'd like more clear and concise real estate and investing tips.